Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this amazing EBF partner panel. My name is Niena Drake. I am the Senior Director of the Emma Bowen Foundation's All Multicultural Media Professional Network, which is what we call as our AMP network. And I have helped a lot of you all, viewers and attendees, through your career navigation process. And this is one of the amazing tools and resources that we provide to you with our partners to highlight them, their fabulous employees, and how you can choose different directions for your career path. And so I welcome you today to this partner panel with Zeno Group, who is a partner of ours and have been for several years, the Career Pivot, how to transfer your skills to work in PR and marketing. Thank you. And I welcome our team from Zeno Group. We have some amazing individuals from Zeno behind the scenes. I want to give a shout out to Kelly from the Zeno Group, who has been helpful and amazing in helping to facilitate this with us. And to the panelists that you all see on screen now, first I'll start with Amy Hollyfield. She is a Senior Vice President at Zeno Group and based in San Francisco. Then we have Reeva, Senior Art Director, and she is in Chicago. Then we have Alexa Wallen, who is a Senior Account Supervisor in Denver. And last but certainly not least, Danielle Robinson, Talent Acquisition Specialist in San Jose. And with that, I'll toss it over to Danielle.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Kelly. So a little bit about myself. My name is Danielle Robinson. I am the Talent Acquisition Manager here at Zeno. I've been here for a little over 3 years. I oversee our junior level positions all the way up to our senior levels across the US and Canada. Like this event, I didn't start in PR. I quite frankly didn't even start in HR. I was a marketing major who had a passion, still has a passion for sports, thought that was the avenue I was going to go down. I was a collegiate athlete, played soccer my whole life, got my first internship, and I said, don't know if sports is going to be my thing moving forward. So I've made a pivot. So I'm super excited to kind of take you guys through the steps of what that looks like. But before we do that, we'll jump into Zeno and who we are. So we are Zeno. We are an integrated communication agency born from PR. And when we started, we were a small agency in Chicago, and now we have over 800 employees nationwide. So there's a lot to be said about that. But we are global as much as our reach is. And then as you can see, we have our values, our purpose, and then some of our partnerships. So we partner with Igami Group as well as EBF, and then some of our awards that we've won over the years. And on the next slide, this is always a fun part, getting to see the clients that we work with. I know when I first started, I was like, whoa, these are all household names. So super cool to see. And then as we move on to the next slide, it just kind of breaks down more of our full service communication capabilities. I know that's a mouthful, but as a firm, we are best equipped to handle our client demands in the ever-changing PR industry and landscape as a full service communications firm. So from analytics to planning, crisis and issues, content creation, so much more. We have all of that talent and capabilities in-house to really bring our ideas to life. So as we kind of jump into the PR career pivot from a talent acquisition standpoint, I always like to remind people that you don't need to start over completely. So many skills from adjacent fields like journalism, marketing, or even event planning can translate well into PR. So here are the 5 tips that I would definitely kind of take into consideration when you're moving on to that next career pivot. So the first one is gaining that knowledge. So staying informed, whether that's following PR professionals, subscribing to a newsletter, reading trade publications, and even industry podcasts. I feel like you can get a lot of knowledge from those. And you'd be surprised, a lot of people here at Zeno, they might not have a PR degree, but they're still so successful. We've had people who have English degrees, history, psychology, you name it. So there's always an avenue for someone. And then develop a portfolio. So something about PR is you're going to do a lot of writing, a lot of reading, a lot of speaking. And so a lot of the deliverables that we're looking for from like a TA perspective is, can you create a press release? How do you craft a media pitch or even a media list? And, just showcasing your skills can go really far in your career pivot because people want to see what you're capable of, so just really highlighting those transferable skills however you can. And then getting that hands-on experience. So that could be anything from volunteering for nonprofit PR efforts, working on freelance projects, or even interning in the industry. I've seen many people really, take the reins of this PR career and just make a name for themselves, starting at that intern level. So in any aspect, you can definitely jump on board. And then leveraging your network. So this is really important. I'm sure in your career, in college, or anything, you've heard it's not what you know, but who you know. And that is very important in this day and age as well. So be sure to connect with those PR professionals through LinkedIn, attend those industry events, even find a mentor. I think that's really imperative just because, like for a mentor, for example, you're looking to that person who's been in those shoes before, and can kind of show you the ropes on what steps you should be taking. Another big one that I've noticed, a lot of people attend PRSSA and PRSA events, and it's a great way to network with people. I've met people who've turned into interns here at Zeno, just by them networking, coming up to me, striking up a conversation. So it's always like, if you can put yourself out there, do it, because you never know who will take that chance. And then another thing that's really important, and I feel like people have said it throughout my entire career, anything like that, is really tailor your resume and your elevator pitch. Sometimes that feels like a no-brainer, but when I'm looking at resumes and let's say you're totally pivoting your career, I definitely want to see those things that are transferable. So really highlight those skills, whether that's in the shape of storytelling, relationship building, crisis management. These are all pivotal pieces in the PR space. And then one other thing that's not on here that I wanted to mention is understanding the media landscape. So that's really important, because when you're creating these stories and really getting that message out there, you want to make sure that you're reaching your largest audience. So is that going to be on Instagram Reels, or is it going to be more in like a LinkedIn platform or things like that? So very small nuances, but they're big changers in how things can go. So with all that said, I'd love to pass it over to my colleague, Amy Hollyfield.
Thank you, Danielle. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Hollyfield, and I have made the pivot, surprising even myself. I did not think I would ever do it, and I certainly didn't think I would land where I've landed. Here is an example of what I used to do.
ABC 7 News reporter Amy Hollyfield is live at AT&T Park, where it's been nonstop all morning. Amy?
Non-stop, Kristen. People selling the t-shirts and the caps say it's been a very good morning. Look at this crowd. It's been steady like this since 7 o'clock this morning. This is in front of the ballpark. What's amazing is people are blindly buying. I've asked several people, well, how much do the t-shirts cost? They say, I don't know. They're just buying them. They don't care. There's a good chance that the players will likely see all of this love all over the city today, because they are back. They got home before the sun came up.
When you're world champions, money doesn't matter.
Their third championship, but maybe not their last. Larry Baird told us this morning that there's something special going on with this team, and he says they aren't done yet.
So here I am working at Zeno. This is me giving a media training to some clients. The second picture, as part of that media training, I'm doing a mock interview to give them the feeling of being interviewed by a reporter. I bet you can guess how my skills translate there. And then the third one is an example of what I do when it comes to placing clients in the media, figuring out what their story is or how they can have a voice in the news of the day. So Taylor Swift was in the news that day with AI, and so I got a client placed commenting on that at the NBC station here in the Bay Area, and with what used to be my competitor, because I was at ABC, but we're all friendly. And so called up an old friend and got the client into the story. So those are some examples of how you can see I'm still interviewing people. I'm still thinking on my feet, still public speaking. It's very different, but a lot of it is the same. So on the next slide, I just kind of map out for you, what does reporting require? Obviously, strong writing skills. And every day you've got an editor just slashing, what you've written. That's boring. People are going to turn the channel. That's not interesting. That's not news you can use. So it's really, it's taught me how to cut out all the junk, get to the good stuff. And keep people interested. And that's more important now than ever before, because attention spans, as we all know, because we all scroll when we get bored, are shrinking. So we have to really write in a compelling way, whether especially in reporting, but also in PR. You've got to have warm and engaging people skills with a strong dose of empathy as a reporter, especially if you're talking to a victim's mother and you're trying to convince her to talk on camera. You can't just be a bulldozer storming into any situation. You've got to be tough and persistent, though, when dealing with public figures who want to tell you you're giving fake news, or you've got your information wrong, or they want to lie to your face. You've got to go toe-to-toe with them. So I sometimes was referred to in my newsroom as the velvet hammer. So you got to be a little soft but a little hard as well. Calmness under pressure. Obviously, you've got a wildfire raging behind you and you're going on live in 10 seconds. You've got to keep it calm, but there's a lot going on around you. Maybe technical issues in the editing room and deadlines coming up, and you got to get something on the air. Curiosity, you've definitely got to be willing to ask questions. You can't just take things at status quo. You've got to be looking for what's interesting, what's new, what's wow. And then that resilience to break through. It's not a very nice business, and you've got to be really tough, and you got to push your way in and keep climbing, and you just got to have some thick skin. So I get over to the PR world and find you got to be a good writer there too. And oftentimes I am the one who is the annoying one in the meeting saying that press release is too top heavy with a lot of corporate words, and it's got too much about the company and not enough about what the reporter is going to want. So those skills have translated really nicely. Good writing is definitely needed in both. People skills. Now I'm working with clients and they're paying the bills. So I got to be kind, understanding, supportive. I'm in the customer relations business now. So maybe I kind of was before because I was thinking about my viewer and how to not waste their time and give them something they could use. Now I'm just trying to do that with clients. Persistence. You're going to get a lot of reporters now in PR telling you no, or that's not a good story, or I don't want to talk to your guy. Well, you've got your client telling you, no, really, we want this to get some coverage. So you've got to be persistent. You maybe some different styles in how you display that persistence, but you can't give up. So persistence has also transferred nicely from reporting over to PR. That curiosity and creativity definitely needed in the PR world. The companies will oftentimes think they have a news story. I'm using my curiosity to ask them more questions, to try to really dig in and tease out what the real story is, or something that a reporter would be interested in. Oftentimes what the client thinks is going to be a good story, a reporter's not going to think is going to be a good story. So I need to pull out my own curiosity, pull that out of my toolkit and use that to try to tease out that story from the client, and then sell that story in a creative way to the reporter. Self-motivation in PR, for sure. And in reporting, you definitely had to have self-motivation to promote yourself, to try to climb that ladder. And that is true as well in PR. So lots of skills. Overlap, work in both fields. So if you're in one of these fields, have the confidence in knowing that it does transfer. It's really easy to look back and say what I wish I would have done. And this is by no means a playbook that is perfect for all. So, take out of this what works for you, but listen to your gut at times as well. Don't take this as the handbook that you have to use. But I was thinking, what would I tell you all to do that I wish I had done? And I wish I had given thought to my second act. Again, easy to say now, but when you're in the reporting world, it is so competitive and tough. And so I thought that was all I was ever going to do, was just keep climbing to get to a bigger market. I couldn't even imagine ever doing anything else. I wish I had. I wish I had given more thought to just planning. I got over to PR. Danielle, close your ears. I didn't know how to do a spreadsheet. I didn't know how to do some really basic stuff. I'm not super savvy at it because I was out in the field covering a car accident. I wasn't sitting at a computer learning these skills. I wish I had given some thought to that and learned that stuff to translate to my new corporate gig. So just something to keep in mind. Don't pigeonhole yourself like I did into thinking that was going to be it. That was going to be my whole career. I do wish I had treated PR people differently. They, bombard my inbox with emails constantly with these pitches, and I would just delete them, and I didn't write them back, and I just found them annoying, and I wish I had been nicer because they do work really, really hard, and they are trying to help you. They're trying to give reporters a good story, but I was just always, reporters are very busy. Deadlines are not a nice thing to have in your day. And so I cast aside PR pitches when I wish I had been friendlier and gotten to know these people, because now I'm on the other side. So fate will do that to you, right? It will give you a little dose of humble pie and remind you that you should treat others like you want to be treated. So remember that if you are encountering PR people, you put them in your phone, get their phone number, learn about their life, because you never know when you might be crossing over. And I wish I'd maintained my contacts better. Again, I just assumed that I didn't need LinkedIn. I didn't need to be establishing a lot of contacts because I was busy just covering what was in front of me, what was happening. And so I wish I had just done a better job at learning the computer skills and maintaining my contacts. Okay, so what do I think you need to make this switch? Determination. I never thought I was going to work at a PR agency, first of all, I'll tell you that. Reporters think of PR as the dark side. They're spinning us. And I thought maybe I'd go in-house and be the spokesperson. Like whenever I need to get an interview from somebody at a hospital, I call the spokesperson at the hospital, the comms person. I thought I was going to do that. And I got some very good advice. And you know what? You need to go to a PR agency because you're going to learn a lot in a hurry. And they were right. It's been a really smart move. So if you are thinking of making the move, or if you are forced with this fork in the road one day, remember that a PR agency is a really good place to learn a lot. But breaking in is not so easy, and you've got to have some thick skin and be ready for some no's. You definitely need to build those relationships. So I turned to LinkedIn immediately when I started looking. Was pleasantly surprised at how many people I really did know. Thank you, social media, for that. But just I was cold calling. I'm sending out messages and cultivating relationships. And then as I was starting to interview people in the field, and I knew I was starting to make the switch. I was talking to the comms people, getting their phone numbers, setting up coffees with them, learning about what they do. How should I make the switch? So you're already one step ahead because you're at this seminar right now. And you're going to need someone who can take a chance, who will take a chance on you. It is an investment. You know, the person who hired me at Zeno was investing in me. I didn't know how to put together a PowerPoint presentation. So there's a learning curve. And so you've got to be ready to go with your persuasiveness and your sales pitch about why our skills transfer and why they need us in their agency. And I'll pass it over to Alexa Wallen.
I'm also a similar background. I was a journalist as well. I was not in front of the camera. I was behind the camera doing what we called booking. So I was a booking producer at NBC in New York, and I was putting guests on air. So I echo a lot of what Amy said. Reporting is a, very, very crazy, cutthroat, deadline-driven business. And for me, I was just looking to kind of have a regular breathing room type space and still be able to apply those skills in a corporate environment, because I never didn't like the media or anything like that when I was looking to make the pivot. And I think that's something that is misconstrued when people leave a job. It's like, oh, you didn't like it. And a lot of times you can still really like what you're doing, but you want to do it in a different format. And I think that you can definitely find those different formats in ways. And I think looking at Amy's list, it's a really good way to start is, what am I doing? And what do I like about what I'm doing? And what are other jobs that have similar links here that I can try to connect the dots with. And yeah, definitely a lot of talking to people and trying to get to know what everyone is doing, because especially in reporting, you saw a very, very small part of what a PR job was. And I can echo what Amy said. You can feel like, okay, these people are annoying. They're just bombarding my email, but you don't know all the work that goes in the back end to make a pitch or to make a media strategy. So yes, making that transition can be tough. But so as I mentioned, I was a reporter in New York in journalism and booking, and now I'm in PR. So I built a little chart here on kind of what that crossover looked like and where the intersections were. So journalism being a 24/7, never ends, stops profession versus PR being more structured hours and typically aligning with business schedules. So those still very fast paced and having to keep up and keep eyes on the news cycle. Journalism is also very mission driven. So you want to inform the public objectively, independently, and in the interest, versus PR is strategic. So we are trying to make sure that our messaging from our clients are coming through properly and that the brand is being portrayed properly. So it's a very different goal. And a lot of times you have to work with reporters to make sure that that goal comes across in the best possible way. And yeah, back to that, journalism has editorial control. So the journalists get to control what goes on air and what goes in print and digital. And, in PR, we have very little control over that. You have to rely heavily on your relationships and build those strong relationships so that your reporter is willing to again also take a leap of faith and include the bits that you're trying to get them to include in a very natural editorial way. And so it's up to PR specialists to really make their messages strong and editorial and feel newsworthy for the reporter. Reporters also just produce the news. So they uncover, investigate, and report and shape that narrative. And we are, as PR specialists, trying to place our clients and brands into the news cycle. The crossover here is storytelling through and through. Reporting is storytelling. PR is storytelling. We're trying to tell that story for our brand through whether it's an event. I know I saw someone talk about the Motorola thing in one of the Q&As. That is a PR event, for example. So we'll be trying to tell the story of what that event was and get reporters to pick it up, or we'll tell a brand story end to end, or maybe highlight someone very specific for a brand or a partnership. And in journalism, each piece you're doing every day is a story. So that thread through really nicely in that career pivot for me. Accuracy and fact checking are also still huge in both spaces. In reporting, I feel like it's very self-explanatory. That's a huge part of the job. But in PR, you want to really appeal to the reporters. So you want your pitches to be fact-checked, to be accurate, to feel very appealing, and to sort of think like a reporter when you're pitching them. So what kind of questions will they ask? How can I answer these questions in advance in my email and keep my pitch looking smart so that they pick this up and they go, oh, everything I need is in here. Again, PR and journalism rely very much on each other. Journalists need public relations people, whether they are, the media relations expert in the hospital, or they are an agency representing one of our awesome clients and they're looking for a statement. So we work hand in hand and very much in tandem, though sometimes, at odds, but most of the time in tandem and together. Both are very fast-paced and deadline-driven. So back to Amy's point, journalism is extremely deadline-driven. PR is deadline-driven in a different way. It's still very fast, but often you have deadlines you're trying to meet for reporters. So you're trying to work in tandem and lockstep with them to make their lives easier. And agility and flexibility is just key constantly. I would say that probably is a bullet that you could transfer to most jobs. I would always recommend be flexible, be agile, be nimble where you're needed. And if someone asks you to do something and you don't know how to do it, you just kind of figure it out. Everyone's just trying to figure it out. Next one, Kelly. Thank you. Oh, this one cut off a little bit. Just a little bit about earned media and my role. So my role at Zeno now is in what we call earned media. So earned media is any media you do not have to pay for. So basically anything on air, on TV for reporting that's not like a very heavily branded ad type segment, or pieces that land in news outlets or, lifestyle consumer outlets. So what I work on is an overarching media strategies for clients. So a client will come to us and say, okay, we have this event or we have something very, very specific we're working on, and we need your help on how to get media interested in it. We come up with really strong ideas for them, creative ways to pitch, and creative ways that we think that reporters will be interested. So skills translate very nicely here. I often feel like I have to put my hat on and think about, okay, what would get in my inbox that I would open and look at? Like what kind of subject line would pick up? What kind of, interesting event would I be wanting to cover? So utilizing kind of the old, what I would stick out in my inbox in this setting for these strategies. We pitch reporters, brands, events, experts, sometimes celebrities on behalf of our clients. So we're working always on behalf of our clients to, try to get their event, their brand, some sort of partnership into media. A huge part of the job is just to meet and build really strong relationships with reporters. This is something that I have loved doing. I'm able to tap into old colleagues, similarly to Amy, as she mentioned, and be able to just continue to speak the reporters speak and chat to be able to build those really strong relationships so that reporters are easy to contact if I have something, big to offer them, or I really want to work in lockstep with them to get something for my client. Another big part of the job is counseling clients on what's going to work. I think a lot of times clients don't necessarily know exactly what's going on in the media landscape, how a newsroom works, how the media landscape is changing dependent on a lot of things, politics, the economy, a lot of things going on that can change the way reporters are working as well. So it's our job also to counsel our clients and to really help them navigate the media terrain. The skills behind the work, strong relationship building through and through, that is a huge part of the job, is just being able to build relationships. Again, flexibility and nimbleness to work quickly and on deadline. So being able to be scrappy if something doesn't work and be willing to pivot and change thoughts and ideas and admit if something's not working. Strategic thinking and problem solving. So again, if something's not working, I feel like I'm echoing myself. If something's not working, just being able to pivot that thought and pivot into something that you think might work. Also just keeping eyes on the news cycle, being really up to date with what's going on, speaking with reporters and asking them like what's impacting your newsroom at the moment, and being able to just relay that information clearly to a client. And then last, I would say creative thinking is a huge part of it. Being able to help clients stand out. There are so many brands out there, and trying to make your client feel different, look different, seem different to reporters is huge. So you do a lot of creative thinking to be able to get to that point. And I think that's all from me. I'll kick it over to Reeva.
Cool. Thank you. Hey guys, I'm Reeva. I'm a senior art director here at Zeno. I've been here since the beginning of this year, but for about almost 3 years now, I have been at Edelman. But before that, I was in advertising. So went from advertising to PR, but as an art director, as a creative, there's a lot of overlap in those two industries. And on the next slide, I'll kind of break down what I do, what I work on, and how it's changed in PR. So what does an art director actually do? So we typically work with our copywriting partners to develop messaging. We usually get partnered up with copywriters, and we collaborate with our strategists and account teams. So between the three of us, the strategist, the account, and the creative, we kind of create a larger team that the client can come to, whether it's because they need help with social media posts, whether they have an online campaign they want to launch, or they have new product drops, or whatever issues they have, they'll come to us. They'll work with the strategist to determine how they're going to post it, when they're going to drop it, how it's going to be about. The account team then determines kind of the timeline and the scope of how we're actually going to be able to bring it to life. And then the creative team, which could include my creative director, my copywriter, and myself, then get briefed in on what the brief is. And then from there on out, it is our job to conceptualize and develop creative concepts. So given the brief, what is a business problem? And then what are we trying to solve? And thinking very conceptually, given the bounds of budget and timeline. And then as an art director, I move on to designing the storyboards, the social contents, any of the branding, really help bringing it to life. And then eventually we present or pitch to both the internal teams and also the client teams. And all of this is very much the same in advertising. So as a creative, when I went from advertising to PR, it didn't really change much for me. You're still a creative at the end of the day, and you're still kind of producing the same things day in and day out. The skills behind the work is kind of some things that I was picking up as I went on in my career. You really have to be good at understanding audiences and brand demographics. When you get, briefed in on a new client or a new brand, it does take a lot of time to understand exactly who are they reaching and who do they want to reach to. Those tend to be two different demographics, and being able to understand the demographics and how they talk and how they show up on social really clearly. A big part of being an art director or a creative in both advertising and PR these days is being what I call chronically online. Like, you need to be told to touch grass every once in a while. Like, you have to be so in it with the cultural, social trends. You have to know what's going on, and also the sentiment behind it. So you not just understanding the lingo, but like, where does it come from and when is it appropriate for brands to use, or if it's appropriate for brands to use, understanding all of that as well. You have to be good at bringing conceptual ideas to life from scratch. So thinking of major pie in the sky what ifs, but then also being able to have very actionable actionable deliverables on it is really important. As an art director, we also dabble a lot in visual problem solving. As a copywriter, you'd probably do a little bit more of like verbal problem solving, like writing by words. But with us, it's a lot of, well, how can we bring this to life visually? Do we need billboards? Do we need mock-ups? And how would those look using our clients' products? Pitching and public speaking is definitely something that you have to get really comfortable with. Not only are you could be selling 360 idea campaigns all the way to just an Instagram post, but either way, the first consumer of your content will be the client. And so getting them on board with your creative idea is really, really important. Delivering and handling critique is a day in and day out activity for me, being really good at having a pretty thick skin at people's opinions. Again, creativity is at its essence subjective. Everyone's going to have an opinion and a thought on it, and taking it really lightly and understanding what do people mean when they're criticizing a piece of work that you created, and then really coming to the solution that you guys both agree on is really important. And also being able to deliver critique is also really important. And then managing expectations for projects and deadlines has been really, really a lesson that I'm still learning as I go about my career. Again, as a creative, it's really hard for people to understand how long things can take to actually produce. Like, concepting can take a certain amount of time, but producing could take so much longer, especially if it's what they think is like quote unquote scrappy. Even if it is a scrappy piece of content, that can also take a long time because brands have to come off scrappy. Like, even being scrappy is an intentional decision that you're making, which can take time. So always reiterating exactly how long things take to make and produce or concept is really important as an art director. And then just kind of bringing it to life, I decided to go the day in my life route. Again, not much has changed when I was in advertising. Then when I moved into PR, it's kind of like an art director is an art director anywhere. So at 9 a.m., usually when I wake up, I review the briefs that I got briefed on earlier, probably in the week, and check in with my copywriting partner. Again, it's really important to stay close with the people that you're working with, the fellow creatives. This is very much a collaborative role. So checking in with them, seeing how they're doing, seeing what their workload is, how their mental is doing. Like, are you overwhelmed right now? Are you nervous about something? Is there anything? Just tapping into your partner can set yourself up for a really successful day. Around 11 to 1, that's usually when I have most of my meetings, whether that's concepting, brainstorming with my partner, having internal creative reviews, getting briefed on other projects, or pitching work to clients. It's usually in the mornings where we have pretty meeting heavy mornings. And then around the afternoon, being an art director, being a creative in these fields, you're walking the balance of not only showing up and showing face and concepting, but you're also doing the dirty, you're also doing the work, you're also creating it. Like, you need time to produce, you need time to create. And it's really important, like how I said earlier, to kind of establish those boundaries and being like, listen, I can be in back-to-back meetings, but from 1 to 3, I actually need time to be in Photoshop or in Premiere and create all these things that we're talking about. So I usually tend to block my calendar off and put everything on mute and just get heads down and get working. And then 3 to 5, I kind of look up from my laptop a little bit and take a breather and make sure I didn't miss anything crazy and wrap up and prepare for the next day. And then this cadence is kind of rinse and repeat, but PR and advertising, both industries, are so dynamic. Like, you really don't know what a single day actually will look like. Every day you wake up is a different day, which is one of the things I like about the industry. I don't really like that much routine. I don't like knowing what the next 3 weeks are going to look like from hour to hour. So it's nice to wake up and be like, there's something new to tackle. There's a new problem, a new client to meet, a new idea to think of. So this is a rough timeline, but yeah, it stands both in advertising and PR. So yeah.
I hope you guys are paying attention and taking a lot of notes, because from every aspect of the business and what all of our panelists have shared, it's really important to see how the crossover has happened. And thank you all so much for the visuals of explaining to our attendees and viewers how that actually has happened, because I think sometimes it's hard for us to step outside of it and see it in a way that you presented it. So all the keywords, all the key phrases, I have a couple of some top line things that I feel like were consistent throughout all of everyone's sharing. And I just added those to the chat. I'll call these the top 5 tips that I took away from how you all shared your skills, one of which is deep thinking, because PR marketing requires you to think past, present, and future in way of your clients' relationships and what you need to do to make sure that your company that you're working for is communicating the story, the messaging, the brand of your client, as well as how that's going to communicate to the consumer and other partners. Healthy collaboration internally. All of the team members on screen, everyone works together in different facets in smaller and large teams, as well as building and nurturing relationships internally and externally. And like Amy was saying earlier, throughout your entire career, no matter where you're at now, you could be a teacher, you could be, a sales associate, you could work in hospitality, but you don't know how those relationships are going to carry you through the rest of your career journey. You just never know. So building those is super important. And then strong communication skills, whether you're writing an email, whether you're on a panel, whether you are presenting, it doesn't matter. You have to build and master your communication skills, and then managing timelines, right? There's pressure in different ways, but you have to understand what those timelines and deadlines are and be respectful of other people's time and how your team has to deliver for your client. So those were the top tips that I took away. Did I miss anything that, you all want to highlight from all of your sharing? Nope. Okay, I guess I covered it. Okay. Yeah. I like to summarize. I definitely like to summarize, to bring things full circle. And what I will say is for everyone, and this was, Danielle, you mentioned this a little bit in your intro, is that it's never too late. Like, it doesn't matter what level you all are at. You could be in school right now. You could be 1 year out of college. You could be 5, 10, 20. It doesn't matter how many years you're out. You can always make the pivot. And I think that's just encouraging to share with you all that this is a field and an opportunity for you all to look at all the things that you've done and see how they can be applied to this specific area of industry. And so I want to encourage you all and know that this is not something that has to happen at a particular phase of your journey. You can do this at any time, and don't feel discouraged. Don't listen to people who say that that's not possible, because we clearly have wonderful and amazing triumph examples of this right now. And so I want you all to think about that and take that with you to know that this is possible. There were a few questions in the chat. Kevin did ask a question. How has social media changed the approach to PR? Are agencies looking for people with social media skills? And I'll start by saying, some of you all address that, directly in your presentations. Feel free to elaborate on how social media plays a role in your jobs and why that's important in what you all do.
Kevin, our clients want social media knowledgeable experts. So if you come in hot with your skills on social media, it will play very well. I have one client who, in our meetings, they want to talk to the social media people on our team far more than they want to talk to us earned media people, as painful as it is for me to say that. And on the flip side, for reporters, we are getting so much pressure to be big on social media. In our newsroom in San Francisco at the ABC station, there's a giant monitor on the wall in the newsroom. And our headshots are ranked real time for how we're doing on social media at that moment. So it's huge in both arenas. So yes, smart question. And if you aren't really good at social media, I would say start beefing that up. If you are really good at it, highlight it on the resume for sure and be ready to talk about it in your interviews. Clients love it. And here at Zeno, what's really captured my attention recently is Zeno has created a committee that is studying, it's called Emerging Media, the committee is, and all they study is emerging media, Substacks, social media, like all the different places now that you can place your client, not just on ABC News, to get attention, and just how we need to be thinking about those, how we pitch to those, how to creatively show up. So great question. Your brain is in the absolutely right place. And while I have the floor, and Danielle, you can back me up on this, I've also heard people in our Zeno office say, if people don't have AI on their resume, I don't even look at the resume. So anything you can do to get AI fluent, Danielle, you can pick up the torch from there, but that's another big one that
Yeah, especially in like our technology space. And I think just in general, I think technology is booming and every day something new is coming out. And if you're someone like for me, I am a creature of habit. So at first when AI was happening, I was like, I love writing emails. Like I can write a novel or like XYZ. Like you will be left in the dust if you don't start utilizing our AI tools. And not to like do the work for you, but to like give you a like frame of reference to work off of and then kind of go from there. And then another point to the social media question, because I'm currently recruiting for a copywriter position. So this person would work in tandem with the art directors and things like that. And I know for this specific role, the hiring manager is looking for someone who, like Reeva said, is chronically online and also someone who knows how to do social copy. So that's social media copy. It's not just, I know how to write a press release or a newsletter. Like, no, that's not what we want to see. And I've seen stellar like portfolios, but it's not what we're looking for. And a majority of the work or the portfolios and resumes that my hiring manager is like, yes, we love this person. It is like reels, it's TikToks, it's like in feed, it's the impressions and all these different things. So I feel like that's just one side of the media, like of the creative space. And then not even to mention like the digital aspects. So like our social teams, our social team is different from our copywriters and like it's a whole other division. So I think it's changed in a huge way. And just being someone who knows your different platforms, how to reach an appropriate audience. Like if we want to reach maybe Gen Z and Gen X, like we're going to be on TikTok, we're going to be on Insta. If we want to reach our more seasoned folks, then we might go on like Facebook or like LinkedIn. It just depends on what platform. So really good question, but that was what came to mind since I'm currently filling a role for the social space.
Alex and Reeva, did you guys want to say anything else about social? And then Danielle, I do have a question to piggyback off of you mentioning portfolios.
Yeah.
You all touched on it for social. It is a huge need. It comes up every day. AI is also a big part, as Amy said. We use it daily when we're trying to get more, familiar with how to use it and how newsrooms are using it too. Reporters are now using it, and that's been really interesting to kind of dive into. I'm on that emerging media task force, but from a different, but from a different perspective, I'm really looking at how legacy media is using and changing and emerging media platforms. So how there's something called NBC News Now. So it's a streaming platform for NBC, and that's how they're getting content on YouTube that's free. So we're really, trying to tune in to just varying ways that not only is like social media taking over, but also how is legacy media stepping into these areas and evolving because people aren't watching cable anymore. So let's be honest. So how are reporters adapting and how can we be nimble as well for our clients?
I'll add one more thing. From kind of a creative standpoint, it's really important, as we've all mentioned, to be up to date on things. But I think now, especially since so many brands have been on social since the pandemic, like that's just when everyone flocked online, everyone was on their phones. Just understanding the trends and having them in your portfolio typically isn't enough. I think what really helps you stand out with your work is if you're able to present a specific perspective or POV a brand could have. I think there's a lot of noise on the internet and a lot of brands just like to talk and shout into the ethers of the internet space. But what works well and when it actually hits is when it makes sense for the brand to open their mouth. And if you're able to show that in your work, even if that's spec work, it doesn't even have to be something that's actually been published, but you're able to show to agencies like Zeno that you're able to think that it makes sense for this brand to partner with that celebrity. It makes sense for this brand to post on Mother's Day. It makes sense for this brand to do X, Y, and Z or hop on this trend because this is the section of the internet space, the world that I see them in. And if you have kind of that perspective, I think that will definitely help you in this industry greatly. And getting the client in on it is a completely different story and a battle within itself. But at least coming with a perspective is something that me and my team work on day in and day out.
Awesome. And to that point, one of the questions we have is what kinds of work samples would Zeno like to receive in an application, specifically like a portfolio? Like if you don't have a portfolio or if you have one, how can you elevate it? And then how can you stand out?
Yeah, great question. I think, and like specifically for people who are trying to pivot in their careers, a lot of the time when you're applying to roles, people will be like, oh, you don't need a cover letter, like just submit your application and resume. And sometimes I will say that's true, but I think specifically for situations like this, if you can elaborate on like your why and like what you're passionate about. And I even like when people take it a step further and say like, I understand I don't have XYZ, but these are the skill sets I can bring to the table. And it's really, again, it's about writing. It's about how you can verbally express yourself. So before we even get on the call, I think it's important to, if you have any portfolio links that you want to share, there's always a place for you to drop something in, whether it's a cover letter, a resume, a portfolio, some published work you've done. You can always add that. And I will say our TA team, we're awesome. I'm not just saying that because I'm a part of it, but we're good people. And I feel like if you come with that energy, like we also want to take a chance on people, and we look at people from all different diversities. And it's not just like the color of your skin or anything like that. It's also like your diverse background. Like maybe you didn't go directly into PR and you started marketing and then you kind of pivoted and now you're here, but the accounts that I'm looking for, or the accounts that this person would be working on, is in like the healthcare like sector or things you've done in the past. So you never know what your resume and like what your experience can really bring to the table. And just like when you get that opportunity to get on the phone with a recruiter, like take that as your time to shine. Don't be scared to say what you've done. I think that's something that a lot of applicants or candidates stray away from, is like speaking about themselves. Like, this is your time to talk to me about the successful things that you've done. And no one's perfect. So you can also say, I've had challenges in this aspect, but I've fixed that by doing XYZ. So it's really just being your whole self and really presenting yourself in a way that shows, A, I have those transferable skills. B, I'm genuinely interested. And like C, that you can do whatever you set your heart out to, and just like have that internal belief that like exudes out of you. So that's just that example. But if I were to go back to the original question, I think things that I would like to see would be, and it kind of varies from practice to practice, but if you're in the consumer practice, which here at Zeno it's called brand, a lot of that you're doing pitches, you're writing pitches, press releases, media lists, because you want to get in front of the media and get this segment out or whatever. So like different things like that. Or even if you don't have that experience, you can even say, I've been dabbling in XYZ courses, or I know there's LinkedIn learnings and things like that. So it's a array of things to really get you in the door and elevate your resume. But I know there's another question in the chat about job search, people who have traditional PR and marketing backgrounds, and sometimes the recruiters or whoever comes back saying, you know what, we went with someone with more experience. Not gonna lie, that happens a lot. And I think, to the point that everyone kind of spoke on this panel, is you have to have tough skin, thick skin, and it's not easy. I've had my fair share of no's before I got to Zeno, but I think in this specific example, I think you just have to really, really tap into your network. So I feel like after this seminar or webinar, I should have some LinkedIn requests. So should my other panelists, and I think that'll really kind of make you stand out a little bit more. You can have coffee chats with people, and really just get more insight of like, so what do you do on your day-to-day? Similarly to how we just talked about what we do on our day-to-day, if you make those connections and networking like moments, then you can actually have those further conversations to get you in front of the talent acquisition people, or you've connected with someone and someone who's hiring. So it's just, the world is your oyster when you start networking and like building a community and like things of that sort. So I understand it feels impossible making that switch, but I promise you, your big break is out there. And also, what I always tell people is give yourself grace. Like, I feel like in this day and age, everyone's like, I have to have this down, I have to do this. Like, my friends are at this stage of their life, and at one point I was the comparison queen. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not where I thought I would be at blah blah blah. Give yourself grace. You're going to get there when you get there, and it might be divine timing for you to get there when you do. And you never know, something might be a better opportunity. So just kind of give yourself grace. I know it's easier said than done, but your opportunity is out there.
I love that, Danielle. Thank you so much for being so thorough with that and honest and transparent. And this is why these panels are so important, because you all get to hear directly from the teams at these amazing organizations. You don't have to be wondering what happened, right? Like, you now have a level of transparency to be present here that you did not have before. And so I want to say thank you so, so much to our panelists and Kelly behind the scenes from Zeno Group, who have taken the time out of their day to share this insight with you, prepare you, and equip you with really tangible takeaway skills, keywords, action items, diversify your background, stay focused, stay persistent, build those relationships, and definitely make sure that you are positioning yourself to win. And if you don't show up, you can't win. How about that? So we want everyone on this call and who watches this to reach out, build your network, reach out to us, connect with everyone, and continue to move forward and champion for themselves. We're getting a lot of thank yous in the comments. Thank you all so much. Any final words? I know we have 2 minutes, and always respectful to the top 5 tips. We want to be respectful to our time that we have with our panelists. Any final words from you all? I think we said it all. I think you just unmuted.
I love Danielle's final pep talk. I want to end with that, the positivity. They say, what did they say? Comparison is the thief of joy. I love that.
It will steal your joy, so don't do it.
Go on your own journey.
We're just going to add good luck to everyone. No is never the end of the road. If you hear a no, it's directing you somewhere else. And have faith in yourself. It's really easy to get down and look outside, but if you don't have faith in yourself, nothing's going to get done. So you guys got it.
Yes. And the link to Zeno's, all their connections, their link tree is in the chat right now. Stay tuned for the recording and the recap email. We want to stay connected with you all, and feel free to reach out to us if you need anything. But thank you again so much, Kelly behind the scenes, Ope behind the scenes from the EBF team, Amy, Reeva, Danielle, Alexa from across the globe. We're literally all over the country, literally. And thank you all so much for your time. Thank you to the attendees for taking the time to be with us. And thank you to Zeno for your partnership with EBF and how you all support us, the mission that we are championing, and that you all support us in so many different ways. We appreciate you and thank you so, so much. And on that note, we are sending you off to be great for the rest of the day, guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you all soon.
That was fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.